So let's cut to the chase. We don't have to discuss whether Shanks or Roger or Rox is a swordsman, because if you're still preaching otherwise, quite frankly, you might be mentally challenged. The debate that's been going rampant throughout the God Valley flashback was who the fuck is a haki man and who the fuck is a skill man. With the recent God Valley chapter wrapping up the fighting, it's a perfect time to discuss the imaginary separation between swordsmen who use haki and swordsmen who use haki but have skill and use skill. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? But firstly, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys rub that subscribe button slowly. Then apply pressure to that subscribe button and release your finger while exhaling very slowly and embrace the everlasting connection we just made. But in all seriousness, and yes, I was being serious, we are close to 30k subscribers, so I would appreciate if you guys could do me that favor, like the video as well. Why this video is titled God Valley has ruined Shanks fans, or whatever I titled it, I don't even know at this point. It is simply because the whole reason this shit is even a debate is because swordsmen like Rox and Roger were Shanks fans' way of proving that you can be a swordsman, but you can be a swordsman that does a whole lot of different fuckery than what Mihawk and Zoro do. Put it this way, those guys are meant to prove that you can be considered a different type of swordsman that some would say is a haki man that doesn't adhere to Mihawk's title. People like Roger and people like Rox were an example of what Shanks would be, is what Shanks fans were hoping for. A non-skillful swordsman that focuses on raw power rather than skill. A swordsman that doesn't necessarily cut but sends shockwaves instead, or sends raw power, or sends raw haki. That distinction is why Shanks can still be stronger than Mihawk. That level of mental gymnastics was never something that was established in One Piece at all. It's people's way of coping around Mihawk's title. This all started when Rox was beating up a child in Hellbath. This guy, by the way, is supposed to be a good guy, all because he loves his family and he was trying to save them. People forget he was doing this fuck shit. But anyways, while he was beating up a defenseless child, we got introduced to Rox's swordsmanship. Yes, this panel does say his swordsmanship is like a giant hammer or cannon fire. For some reason, people like the semantical argument. It pretty much says swordsmanship. So the whole cope of doing non-slice attacks and doing haki blast instead is not swordsmanship was debunked by Oda with this statement, literally saying that the cannon fire type haki that fucking Zebek is using is indeed swordsmanship. So for those who think Shanks blew up Kid and does haki kamehamehas and explosions and all that shit instead of slicing, even if that's the case, right, it's still considered swordsmanship. So yes, Shanks does use swordsmanship. Now, since that argument was debunked, they ran to saying swordsmen who do haki blast and non-slicing attacks are a different type of swordsman. They aren't using skill and are just using raw power, which also would not classify them under Mihawk's title. Which, by the way, is hilarious for the simple fact that Zoro be using this so-called raw power that makes him a different type of swordsman all the time. Oda made Zoro's pound cannon technique based on a mathematical formula surrounding weight. Zoro's strength is the main factor in this technique, and it's a part of his swordsmanship, just like how making Rox's cannon fire attacks is a part of his swordsmanship. Once again, the Shanks fans reference Rox for a person who doesn't use sword skill, but is a raw power swordsman only. Even if he only was that, it wouldn't even matter, but little did they know, Oda was gonna have Rox slicing and dicing motherfuckers the entire God Valley. He was slicing up Figureland Garling. He went and sent a sword slash engulfing the island. The first thing he did to Emu was cut his leg off, then proceeds to slice and dice him some more. This is the sword skill you guys are talking about? Then shit, it looks like Rox be using sword skills. Proving Rox to be a raw power swordsman that's different from other more skill orientated swordsmen is a differentiation? There we go. That doesn't have support, nor was it ever something established by Oda. Neither was it for Shanks. I didn't even speak on Roger, and he's honestly the nail in the coffin. This is the man that Shanks fans spent years trying to prove he's more than a swordsman and that he's a haki man himself. Let's first talk about proving he's more than a swordsman. Well, there's nothing to talk about because you guys seen a full flashback on God Valley where he just spammed and only used his sword in battle. Even in the future, more recent to the current events, all we ever see from him is using his sword as well. Roger is a swordsman that fights with his sword. So yes, Shanks fans, that is what Shanks is as well. The fact that Shanks bases an attack off Roger goes to show you that he uses the same type of swordsmanship as Roger. And we know for a fact that even if the attack isn't necessarily slicing, it's still considered swordsmanship like it was for Zebek. So Shanks uses swordsmanship just like how Roger does. And let's not cope with the, oh, but Roger doesn't slice, he's a different type of swordsman that doesn't use skill. Roger's final and strongest attack is him slicing Zebek repeatedly. So if that's not your imaginary definition of sword skill, then I don't know what is. So yeah, if Roger's out here slicing and dicing, and he's the swordsman that Shanks emulates, then bro, what do you think Shanks is going to be doing? Even if Shanks isn't like Roger, once again, his type of swordsmanship doesn't make him any less of an actual swordsman, it just makes him different. There are many different types of swordsmen in One Piece, but not once has a distinction been made that fighting with certain techniques with the sword makes you a swordsman not eligible to Mihawk's title. I'll say this, I don't know if I ever end up on Twitter. I don't know, I always see other people on there getting cooked. Hopefully I'm not the guy getting cooked. I'm about to cook, so hopefully it's for a good reason. This whole flashback should just put the whole haki man and sword skill separation in the mud. Because at the end of the day, all we see from Roger and Rocks was mainly them just infusing Conqueror's haki with their blade to do attacks and to parry attacks as well. And all we've seen from supposed skill users like Zoro at his peak right now, for example, his current peak is also Conqueror's haki attacks with his swords. And if we start saying other things that aren't necessarily a part of the sword isn't a part of swordsmanship and disqualifies you from Mihawk's title, then you would have to disqualify Zoro, because you can make the argument that his cannon attacks and his dragon twisters isn't swordsmanship either. And there's probably other stuff that I'm forgetting right now as well. The things Zoro does should only prove to you that there are so many layers regarding swordsmanship. The fact that he even has moves like 1 gorilla, 2 gorilla tells us that fighting with a sword is one thing, but finding ways to be very strong in other aspects like haki is something that's very important to being a swordsman. And whatever way you decide to elevate yourself beyond just the sword, while not abandoning it as your main fighting style to make you an overall stronger fighter, doesn't make you any less of a swordsman.